Today we're making basic sourdough bread. Because of the long rise of the bulk fermentation, I like to start my dough the night before and allow it to rise overnight, then bake it in the morning. So we start with 100 grams of sourdough starter or half a cup. I like to weigh my ingredients because it's more accurate and reliable, but I've also included both in the directions. Also, remember to feed your starter after discarding. See my video on feeding your starter if you would like directions. Next, we add 375 grams or 1.5 cups of water and 15 grams or 2 teaspoons of salt. I'm using spring water and Himalayan sea salt, but these options are up to you. The last ingredient is 500 grams of all-purpose flour or 3.5 cups. Mix all ingredients together and you will have a very lumpy, shaggy dough. We're going to allow this to rest for 20 minutes. Next, we're going to perform a series of lift and folds. You can do this anywhere between 2 to 4 times, depending on how much time you have, with an hour's rest in between sets. You can see how shaggy the dough is before we start our first set of lift and folds. If the dough is very sticky, it helps to wet your hands before handling the dough. And on to our second set of lift and folds. I only ended up having time for 2 sets, and you will see the bread comes out fine. This process helps to create the structure of your dough and give it strength. So after our first set of lift and folds, you can see the dough now forms a smooth, tight ball, and we allow this to rest for an hour in between each set. After our lift and folds, we will cover and allow the dough to bulk ferment 8 to 10 hours or overnight. The next morning, you can see the dough has doubled in size, and look at all of the bubbles under the surface. We're going to turn it out onto a floured surface and shape it in a way that creates tension on the surface of the dough so that it will hold its shape during baking. Fold the dough like an envelope and then pinch the seams together. We're going to then let it rest for 10 minutes, seam side down. You may use a bench scraper to tighten the surface tension of your loaf, but it's not necessary. The final proof we're going to do in a banneton. If you don't have a banneton, that's totally fine. You can let it final proof on the counter. Flour the banneton well, flip the dough over, seam side up, and cover and let rest for 1 hour. At the end of that hour, preheat your oven to 450 degrees. When the oven is ready, right before you put the loaf in, we're going to transfer to parchment paper and score the bread. This allows the dough to expand better and improves the spring of your crumb. All you need is a simple slash down the middle with a lame, or you can get really creative with your scoring. I have some videos if you want to try something a bit more creative. Then lift with the parchment paper into the Dutch oven and bake the whole thing for 30 minutes. After that, remove the lid of your Dutch oven and continue to bake for another 15 minutes or until desired darkness of crust. Let the loaf cool before slicing and look at the crumb of this loaf. Enjoy your homemade sourdough bread.